Just stay right there, and I'm gonna bring you on in a minute. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy Monday to you. God's blessings to you. I am so happy that you have tuned in to this broadcast this morning on Insight. I am your host, Prophetess Teresa Cox. And surely we've had a full and complete weekend. Truly, the Lord blessed us on yesterday, blessed us in our ministry. And the Lord even allowed us to be a blessing to so many people yesterday in the community. My spiritual son, Prophet Adel Kimbrough, partnered with our ministry, and we were able to bless over 100 families yesterday for the holiday. And I'm excited that we were able to meet that endeavor. As a matter of fact, we're talking about revisiting that tomorrow again. So please stay tuned. If you know anyone in the Detroit metro area that is in need of a turkey, for the holiday. Just stay tuned for the post and for everything that we send out, notifications regarding that. We're looking to try to do that again. There is a shortage right now on turkeys, for those of you who don't know. And so the Lord blessed us to be able to connect with a local market, and we were able to make that happen. So I'm excited about that. Yesterday, we also had, for the first time, many of you who don't know, I started and implemented my School of the Prophets this year in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. And the Lord allowed the class to graduate. Matter of fact, we had 3 classes to graduate yesterday for our School of the Prophets. So for those of you who don't know about the School of the Prophets, you can go to my website, TeresaCoxMinistries.com. You can find out more information there. You can also email us there for more information. But I am excited because that was a word, that was a prophetic word that I received 10 years ago. As a matter of fact, the Lord had already spoken that to me, but it was confirmed in Massachusetts in a service that I was preaching in a conference, and another pastor released that word to me 10 years ago that I was going to have a School of the Prophets. And yesterday it came to complete fruition in terms of all of those students being able to graduate that 18-week program. And so we congratulate all of the students, and we thank God again for, I see my son, Prophet Adele is on. I want to say thank you, son, for that awesome work that you did yesterday, making sure that those families had those turkeys. And we're looking again to revisit that tomorrow. He's doing an awesome job. If you're not following Prophet Adele Kimbrough, you need to do that. He's a young man that the Lord is raising up in this nation. Amen. And if you can contribute to our efforts for tomorrow to be a blessing even further to the community, please follow him on Facebook, and let's make that happen. So this morning, as I was preparing for the broadcast, the Lord had me to, I always go before the Lord about what we should discuss. I always go before the Lord. I don't ever want to just hop on Facebook and, we're just out here rambling and talking about nothingness. But this morning I was asking the Lord, what would you have me to say? And interestingly enough, for those of you who are in the state of Michigan, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's getting ready to be we're currently in the second wave of this pandemic. And this is a word that I prophesied earlier in the pandemic, that it would not just end at the end of the summer, but I saw another wave of this thing coming. And I can't remember who it was, but someone specifically asked me, when did I think it was going to happen? And the Lord spoke through me and said that it would happen in the month of November. So here we are in the month of November. This pandemic is not over. And I've been saying that for the past few weeks, for those that are getting comfortable, those that are getting lax. And I know sometimes in our local church, because of how the Lord has blessed us, so many people have forgotten that we're still in this pandemic. But I want you to know that this thing is very real, and it is nothing but by the grace of God that he has covered our church and covered our church family and covered our respective families. But this thing is far from over. And so I don't know where you all are, but I want you to understand that this pandemic is going to continue for a while. And so I want to talk to you this morning very briefly from the thought of, and I'm asking you a rhetorical question. And the rhetorical question is, are you prepared? Are you really prepared for this second wave of this pandemic? Because the first wave hit, and so many people, and I'm going to ask that you all just stop and share this live right now, because there are so many people that need to hear what the Lord is saying this morning concerning this pandemic. I have a mastermind class that is coming up this Wednesday, and we'll get to that a little later. But you have to make sure that you are prepared. The first go round, so many people were not prepared. But those of us who are prophets, and those of us who have a grace for the prophetic, those of us who really sincerely have prayer lives, we were in tune with what the Lord was saying, because the Bible says in the book of Amos that he does nothing, he reveals nothing in the realm of the earth unless he first reveals it through and speaks through his prophets. And so many of us who have been tuned into God for years, as a matter of fact, this particular year, God gave me a prophetic word 8, 9, 10 years ago. I preached this message and I prophesied and I spoke this word to many churches as I traveled across the nation. During that time, I was not traveling internationally like I do now, but as the Lord was taking me around the nation, I was speaking and releasing the word of the Lord. And I told them, I called out the year 2020. And as a matter of fact, the young lady that I'm going to bring on in just a minute, she can affirm, because she's been a part of my ministry for some time, that this was something that the Lord had given me. And I was telling the people to prepare for the year 2020. As a matter of fact, the Lord told me that it would be the first quarter of 2020 that this thing was going to hit. I told the people to buy up canned goods. I told the people to stock up on water. I told the people that there was something. The Lord didn't give me the word pandemic. It was more like a famine is what I saw. It was something that was coming to the nation that was going to shake this nation, and it was going to have a direct effect on every person. It was going to have an effect on every household. And so I began to tell the people to prepare. And so many people in my church were not surprised when it happened, because they have been hearing this for years. And this is why you need to be connected to a true prophet. If in fact you are a prophet, you still need to be connected to another prophet that hears from God, because as we are prophets, our gifts are not for ourselves. I don't know who I'm talking to this morning, but those of you that are prophets, we cannot sit and act like, oh, God only speaks to us, because the truth of the matter is he speaks to us concerning the kingdom of God and not necessarily us all the time. So when you need a word, you need another prophet. Come on, somebody that can hear from God, that is able to tell you what the Lord is saying concerning you. And so we all need to be connected to true prophets of God and true people that are postured before God, that are able to hear and understand. That is so very critical right now, that we are in tune with what God is saying, not necessarily with what's going on and the reports coming from the White House. And we have to take watch to what is happening there. But more importantly, we need to keep our ear in alignment with what God is saying on behalf of his people. And so I admonish you that if you are not connected to a true prophet, I welcome you to connect and partner with my ministry, so that even on Mondays and Thursdays, you're coming on here on this broadcast on Insight, and I'm telling you what thus saith the Lord. But you need to be connected so that you can really understand. Many of you have emailed me and even asked me if I can mentor you, and we'll talk about that a little later. But whatever you do, don't just be out here laxy daisy, as my mom would say, and just acting like you don't have a care in the world. These are critical times. Come on, somebody. I said these are critical times, and we are not just here in the end times. And you got to understand what is really going on, what's going on concerning the economy that is affecting your job, your business. And so the governor announced, I believe over the weekend, that over the next 3 weeks, starting on Wednesday, that she's shutting down the restaurants, the dining in portion of the restaurants. So we will not be able to go in and dine in to have dinner for the next 3 weeks here in the state of Michigan. And so there are many things. You all need to go back and see what the governor is reporting. For the next 3 weeks, we are going back into not a complete shutdown, but it is the beginning of a partial adjustment concerning the times, because the numbers of the virus are increasing. And so, we have a lot of controversy in terms of whether this thing is real or not. But I tell you what, we got to have wisdom during these times, because certainly something is going on. Something is going on in the hospitals, because those that are working the front line are coming back and they are reporting that it is in fact that the people coming into the emergency room and the number of people who are being exposed to this virus, that those numbers are increasing. And so if you know anyone in healthcare, if you don't believe it's real, just ask someone that works in the healthcare field, someone that works in the hospital, and they can tell you what's really going on concerning these times. And so the question again remains, are you prepared? And so I just want to read briefly this morning from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, starting at verse 25. That's our reading. If you could just share this live. I do have one of my spiritual daughters that's getting ready to come on, and she's going to testify about what is happening with her during this pandemic. Because truly, if you are connected to God, I want you to know, not only do you have to be prepared, but God will provide and take care of you. Please take a moment to share this live. And so we're looking again at Matthew chapter 6. We're looking at verse 25. And it says, therefore, I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat and the body than raiment? And so the Lord is saying, basically, if I'm able to give you a home, do you not believe that I can put food on the table? If you believe I'm able to give you a job, do you not believe that I can put gas in your car? Sometimes we have a challenge in our minds believing that God can take care of the small details of our lives. It's amazing to me how we can have a history with God. God can have a history and a track record with us. But as soon as we are faced with something, a situation that's beyond our control, we seem to forget what he's already done. And so he begins to say, I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not your life more than meat and the body than raiment? And so as we go on to I want to skip down to verse 27. He says, which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? In other words, the Lord is saying, you can't even add time to your life. You cannot add a month. You can't add a year. If it is your time to go, you cannot add any type of extension to the stature or the longevity of your life. And so he's saying, since you can't do that, and I'm the one that's in control, do you not think that I can't put food on your table? If I'm in control of your whole life, if I'm in control of your whole destiny, if I'm in control of your whole family, then stop doubting that I'm able to take care of you. And so the question remains, are you prepared in this hour? Because the Lord does not want us to worry, but he never told us not to be prepared. He never told us not to plan. And so let's look at verse 28. He says, and why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, how they toil not, neither do they spin. Let's go down to verse 31. Therefore, take no thought, saying, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, or what withal ye shall be clothed. For after all these things do the Gentiles seek, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. Don't we know that the Lord already knows what we have need of? But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto us. And so here is what I want to get to. The Lord says in the text not to worry. In other words, don't stress out about the small details of your life. But again, he never told us not to plan and be prepared. So for all the spiritually deep people who are always saying, you know, God's going to take care of me, but when things happen, you're not prepared. These are the times this year you should have been working on your credit. This is the time when you should have been preparing and stocking up on your canned goods. And it shouldn't take another wave of the pandemic this time around for you to understand that you cannot wait until you run out of the last roll of toilet paper to run to the store. Come on, somebody. We should be beyond that by now. At this time, you need to make sure that you and your family are prepared for this next wave of this pandemic, because again, this thing is far from over. I heard a local gospel artist say something the other day, I believe it was yesterday, about something that's supposed to happen on next year when this pandemic is over. Well, who told you it was going to be over next year? Who told you that we still would not be in the same place where we are now? because the majority of the people that I know have already said that they don't want to take the vaccination even when it comes out. So we have a debate going on right now in terms of whether this pandemic is going to be over in 2021 or whether this thing is going to be extended. I tell you what, the Bible says that the just shall live by faith. So whether we are in a situation like we're in now, whether it gets worse or whether it gets better, you better have a plan. Come on, somebody. We can no longer afford to wait until something hits us, and then all of a sudden we want to take action. We got to learn how to be proactive. And so this is why I'm having this mastermind class on Wednesday to teach people and to train people on how to win during the time of this pandemic. Because all I know is winning. Come on, somebody. All I know is that if I stay connected to God, not only is he going to keep food on my table, this word this morning that we are visiting this morning is basically dealing with our necessities. You don't have to worry about a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on your table. Those are the basic necessities of life. And people, if you can't trust God for that, then surely you can't trust God to take care of your business. Surely you can't believe that God is going to make a way for you to have additional income. If you can't trust God for food, my God, come on, somebody. We say we have faith and we sing and we dance and we shout and we're always telling somebody about the goodness of the Lord. But as soon as we are faced with a test, we can't believe God for the simple things. Come on, somebody. He said, you don't even have to worry about the simple things. Make sure that you understand that your faith without your works are dead. So if you want to go to the next dimension, and if you don't want to just be out here struggling, then baby, you're going to have a plan for your life. You got to be prepared right here and right now. What are you going to say when the kids come up to you after the holidays and let God forbid if you lose your job? Come on, somebody. What sense does it make to be walking and testifying that we have been walking with God for 20 and 30 years, but we can't believe God for the small details of our life? Come on, somebody. So I need for you to understand that you got to be prepared this morning. You must be prepared. You must be prepared. What are you doing right now to make sure that when this global pandemic hits again, that you will not be in the same situation that you were in the first time when it hit? So again, are you prepared? I'm getting ready to bring on one of my spiritual daughters, and she has been with me for a few years. Hallelujah. She's been with me for a few years. And the thing of the matter is, in terms of her testimony, is really mind-blowing. So I hope we have a moment for her to go back to when she first came to the ministry. And then I want her to bring you up to date in terms of what God is doing for her right now during this pandemic. Let me tell you something. You need to share this live right now, because this testimony is going to blow your mind. I'm not bringing on people and we're just up here rambling. I'm telling you, I'm being led by the Spirit of God. And the Lord told me to get her on this broadcast. I was going to bring her on Friday, but I told her it would be better for her to come on today. Let me tell you something. When she gives her testimony, this is nothing that we made up. This is nothing that we're just trying to boost the numbers. I'm telling you right now, you need to share this live so that people who have situations where that's shaky right now. They don't know if their job is going to remain open. They don't know, if their landlord is going to let them have an extension because they don't have all the money for their rent. You need to get those people on the live right now. Go ahead and share this live if you haven't already. I say good morning to my Periscope family, my YouTube family, my Facebook family, and I'm getting ready to bring on my spiritual daughter. This is daughter LaShawn. She's coming on right now. Can you hear me, LaShawn?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good. And so listen, I want you to give your testimony. Let's start from when you first came to the ministry. Just hit on that just briefly, and then jump over to 2020 and what the Lord did for you this year.
Oh my God. Well, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share my testimony. Basically, I joined the ministry, I think it was the end of somewhere in 2012. So it's going on 8 years, 2012. And at the time when I came to the ministry, I had went through a divorce. I was going through a divorce. And I had some children, younger children. I have 3 children, but at that time I had my 2 younger children. And I believe that it was a Friday evening that I was invited there, and it was during your deliverance service. And at the time, when I came, I was going through some very difficult times. I was actually homeless. I had actually lost everything that I had, living out of my car. I had to make a decision at that time to allow my children to go and stay with their father, or to stay with me in my car, or back and forth at times when I was able to get room for a hotel. So I made the decision to let them go. That Friday evening, God was using you so mightily. You prophesied some things to me, not even knowing my situation. You didn't know me. You didn't know me, and never seen me before, but everything that you spoke to me that night, it was true. Not only that you spoke to me that night, but I will never ever forget this. You took up an offering that night. And this is one of the things that I can truly testify about you. You are a giver. And you have taught us over the years. Me personally, I've watched you give. I've watched God bless you. And that is something that I have adapted as learning how to give. And you took up an offering, and that offering was for me. And I'll never ever forget that it blessed me to be able to receive that, and to be able to receive a prophetic word. I grew up in the church, but heard of prophecy, but to actually be in the presence and to receive one was mind blowing. You want me to jump to 2020? There are so many things over the 8 years that
honey, testify whatever the Lord is leading you to share, because the Lord told me to bring you on here, because there are some people not just are watching right now, but some people are going to watch this replay. So I want you to be led by God. However the Lord is leading you on what to share, just begin to share it from your heart, because it's going to bless somebody.
Yes. Yeah, so like I said, it's so many things. And shortly thereafter joining the church, you prophesied to me many of times. So one of the biggest things that you prophesied about, we were in a service one day, and you said you saw a promotion, and you called me up and you prayed over me, and you spoke some words over me, and you said that God is going to promote you. God is going to elevate you. And God did just that. You also prophesied that God was going to bless me with a condo. God did that. The major thing as far as the promotion, God relocated me to Arizona, to Tucson, Arizona, where I left in November of 2014. And I was there. God blessed me. He did some miraculous things. I stayed in contact with you. I stayed in contact with the ministry. It's so much that God has done for me since being at that ministry. One of the things that I can say, if I can pause, because I'm excited to be able to share this testimony, because it's so much. But one of the things I can say about our apostle is that she spoke earlier about being connected, to a ministry where it's the fivefold ministry, someone that is being led by God. I can say that my apostle is led by God. She doesn't say anything out of the flesh. She only speaks as God leads her. And everything that she has ever spoken over my life in the 8 years of me being there has come to pass. I'm sitting today in a very blessed place. Many people have asked me, they said, well, my kids mainly, they're like, well, Mom, you go to church all the time. My oldest daughter would say, Mom, you go to church all the time, but it seems like you're always struggling. It seems like you're always in a situation. It seems like you're always losing. And for a minute, that thing started to bother me, because I'm like, you know what? Jay's kind of right. I've I've been homeless 3 times since being at that ministry. And most people will look at it too, like, well, it's something that LaShawn's doing, or is she not paying her bills? Is she not, doing right by God? Is she not saving her money? You know what? Today I can sit and truly say it had nothing to do with any of that. Something about being connected to a deliverance ministry, you're going to lose some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you why it is that, but you're going to lose some stuff. And I've lost 3 times everything that I had 3 times. But in those 3 times, God has restored me. And it's so much. Pastor, if you could think of something, it's so much. But I don't want to rush this moment, because I want someone to really truly get what they need to hear out of this testimony. But I want to skip over to 2020. Well, let me go back. I was talking to someone yesterday. Last year, this time, I was homeless. Again, last year, this time, I was homeless.
Yes.
I was living out of my car. I was staying at a hotel.
Yes.
Working every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was working every day, just like you see me now. You wouldn't have known it unless I shared it with you. You wouldn't have known it unless I told you, but I was homeless.
Right.
But God kept me.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed faithful to God during this time. I pressed my way to church. My pastor knew. Many people in my our ministry did not know, and some did know, and those is in my personal life that knew. But my pastor knew, and I thank her, because many times she would call and check on me, and she had blessed me, and she would I know it was times that God wouldn't allow her to say things to me, and then it was times that I would be like, God, can you speak to her? Can you just tell her like when I'm gonna come out of this? But I knew that her hands was tied, because sometimes you can be close to someone and God will not allow you to speak to them. And God, I know at times that God wouldn't allow you, Pastor, to speak to me, because it just wasn't your time.
Right.
But wow.
Can you talk also, LaShawn, a little bit about, this is so important, because Chelsea, many of you who know my oldest daughter, Chelsea, she's currently in school, and she's studying to become a clinical psychologist. And so we are dealing a lot in the ministry. And she sent me something this morning that really disturbed me. There is a so-called prophetess on Facebook who posted something about, I cannot believe that pastors are talking about mental warfare and mental illness and mental health from the pulpit. Mental health and mental illness is nothing but a demon, and they need to learn how to just cast demons out. And if they knew how to cast demons out, then they wouldn't have to talk about mental health and mental illness and all these types of things. And so Chelsea sent me that because she was so disturbed this morning, because one of the things about our ministry is we're dealing with, for the past couple of years, we have dealt with in the church, how the church has shunned against teaching and discussing and talking about the fact that mental health is real and mental illness is real. And people sometimes, because of the warfare, it is not always demonic. Sometimes some of our warfare has been deeply rooted because of issues that we've dealt with in our past, and the church wants us to shout over it and jump over it. And I know we're not here talking about that piece right now, because we're talking about being prepared, and I want you to give your testimony. But can you just touch on that? Because Chelsea was very offended this morning, and she said, I want to say something so bad. I said, no, you can't say anything, because these people are not even really ready to receive. These people are unlearned, and these people are uneducated. But I want you to talk a little bit about how you talked about how, since you were at the ministry, how you have been homeless 3 times. Can you just, for the sake of people that are listening right now and those who will come to listen, to let them hear that you can be saved, you can be sitting in the church, you can be faithful to the church, you can be paying your tithes, you can be sowing seed. Yeah. But let's talk about how you were dealing with some issues and how the enemy affected you during that time. Can you just touch on that a little bit? Because I feel like somebody needs to hear, because sometimes people try to be so spiritually deep
Yeah.
and they just out there drowning in a raindrop. They're really not deep at all. But let me explain something to those that are watching. The church has got to stop trying to demonize everything. Everything is not a demon.
Yeah.
Some things are just life, and some things and some patterns and some cycles that we deal with. And I'm not necessarily talking about daughter LaShawn, but I'm just talking about in general. Sometimes we go through cycles, and it's not always a demon. Sometimes it's because of some traumatic thing that happened to you when you were a child, or something that happened to you when you were in your past. And so everything is not a demon. Now, this is coming from an apostle. I walk in the fivefold ministry. I walk very heavily in deliverance. I travel internationally. So don't come for me, because I'm not the one. I do ministry in Africa. I do ministry in Trinidad. I know how to deal with demons, but I also understand that there is something very real that we've been missing in the body of Christ. And that is, just like we have to go to the doctor for ulcers and high blood pressure and diabetes, church folk don't have a problem with going to the doctor and taking medication to get their blood pressure down. Where is your faith then? Where's your faith when the doctor tell you got cancer? And so just like we have physical ailments that we have to deal with, mental health is an issue that has been overlooked and downplayed in the body of Christ. And I brought daughter LaShawn on here because we're being very open, and we are being very transparent about this testimony. She don't have to go deep. I just want her to touch on what she was dealing with mentally, the fact that you're coming to church, but you keep losing. Can you deal with that for a moment?
Oh my God. Yes. Mental illness in the church. It is so real. I probably was depressed probably the majority of the time. And I know that it was God that kept me. I remember sleeping in my car one night, and it was the next day, which it was a Friday evening. I was in my car. I was sleeping actually at a rest stop. One of the funny things that I would do was I would drive out close to Toledo so that no one would see me.
I remember that.
I would have to go into the bathroom at the rest stop to wash up, to prepare myself for church, to prepare myself for work. I would have wipes. I would have things in my car that I would prep myself for. So when I go into the restroom, that I wouldn't be there for a long time, because most of you know that on 275, a lot of truckers from 75 Toledo, they drive that. So it was really dangerous, a dangerous situation for me to even be at that rest stop. It was no light or anything, but I know that it was God that was keeping me. And many nights I was depressed. I would cry myself to sleep. This particular night, I literally felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. I really felt like I was checking out, but I know it was God. I didn't talk to my pastor that night, but I felt her presence. I felt something hovering over me. I felt something like a bear hug covering me, hovering over me. And it was the next day that she called me. It was a Saturday that she called me, and she began to talk to me, and I began to talk to her. But like I said, the majority of the time I was experiencing depression. I was experiencing anxiety. And guess what? I have a family, but I don't fault my family. I don't judge my family. I don't fault anyone for not helping me. I was told some years back by a prophet, may his soul rest in peace, Apostle Michael Shakespeare. He told me, he said, LaShawn, God is not going to allow anyone to help you. He said, some things you got to go through on your own. And he said, he is not going to allow anyone to help you. And when I tell you, Apostle, he did not. I mean, he did on certain things. And I would say, God, you can touch somebody's heart. You can change my situation.
Yeah.
But God wasn't doing that.
Right.
And I was coming to church. I was fighting depression. I was coming, and it was times that my pastor would catch me. But as she mentioned about the depression part is key, because what I realize is that many people go to church Sunday after Sunday. They sit on a pew, they go in that one way, and they leave out the same way, broken. Mm-hmm. My trauma happened as a child. And so what I realized is that you can be saved You can be sanctified. You can say, as Larry Reed say, Bible say,
Paper Bible say.
paper Bible say, but you still got to deal with some stuff. And if the stuff that happened to you, trauma that happened to you as a child, if you don't deal with it, it
Yes.
will deal with you. It will overflow into your adulthood, which is what mine did. Mine overflowed into my marriage. I blame my husband for a lot of things because my dad wasn't there, which it wasn't his fault. He wasn't all good either. But some things I took out on him that I should have taken out of him, because technically it wasn't his problem, because girls need their dads, and they need a man in their life. And although my dad is the reason why I'm even sitting here today. My story is so ironic, because even though my dad wasn't a full-time dad, my dad is the one that took me to church. And most people that know that I grew up with, I would be at church with my dad on Sundays. So, but yet and still that trauma from something that personally happened to me as a child, my dad not being there, it carried over to my adulthood. It carried over into me being saved. And even today, I still deal with it. I still have bouts of depression. So anybody that sit and tell you that, God will heal you, he will.
Yes.
He can do it instantaneously, or he can do it over a process. And my healing has been a process.
Right.
And I fight depression all the time. And during last year, I was really, really, really depressed, because at some point I'm like, okay, my family's not going to help me. Somebody can help me, guys. Somebody see me in this situation, but yet people are talking, but nobody's doing anything to help me. But I remain faithful to God. And that's one of the things that I have learned. I'm not perfect. And people will lead you to be, you're perfect. I'm not perfect, but I remain faithful to God. And as Pastor said earlier, that if you be faithful to God, God will be faithful to you. And God has been faithful to me. He has kept me many a days where I thought that I was I should be in a mental institution today. I should be on probably thousands of medications today with what the doctors diagnosed.
What the doctor said. Yes.
But I refuse to believe that. I even was in counseling. I'm still having counseling. And the doctors did diagnose me with some diagnosis and prescribe some medication. And I did take it for a period of time because I was depressed. I was so depressed. No one knew it. My pastor knew it. I was so depressed to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't eat. People that know me know that I'm very meticulous. I believe in taking care of you. But what's the purpose of taking care of the outside of you when the inside of you is broken? And you would see my outside together, but inside I was broken. I was hurt.
Right.
I was, oh my God.
Right.
Just lost.
Yes.
But God kept me. Like I said, I thank God for the ministry. I thank God for Efficacious, because many a days I wouldn't have made it. But I pressed my way to church. A pastor would have a word, or God would allow her to catch me. So depression is real. Anxiety is real. Most of the people say, well, anxiety, a lot of times I'm not worried. Anxiety is a spirit. It's a spirit because it's fear.
Yes.
And the best way that I can explain it is that you're worrying about something that hasn't even happened.
Right.
And you really don't even know the outcome, because it could turn out favorable for you. But because this anxiety has taken over your mind, your body, it's like you lose control of yourself. You can't even control it.
Right.
You can't control it. But it controls you.
So this is why I wanted us to touch on this part of your testimony before we get to what God did in 2020, because we have many people that are watching right now. And like I said, we have many people that's going to watch the replay. As a matter of fact, as I'm looking in the realm of the spirit, many of the people that's on right now, once this goes off, they're going to go back later and watch it again, because right now we are ministering to people by way of the spirit, and the Lord knows what we have need of. And that's why when you said, it's just so much that happened in between, I believe the Lord had us to slow down so that we wouldn't miss this part of it, because there are so many people like you in church, faithful to God, like I said, sowing their tithes and their seed. And the thing about it, the people, like you said, in the ministry would not have known what you were going. They didn't know what you were going through. And as your leader, as your pastor, I would go to God many days and I would cry out to God on your behalf and I would intercede.
Yeah.
Because when you have a leader that really, really does care for the people, for the sons and daughters of the house and the people that are truly committed to the house, I'm not talking about people that's just in there for the benefits, but when you know somebody has the heart of the ministry, I just want to help the pastors and the leaders right now. This young woman was at the church. And I know I'm an apostle. I know I'm a true prophet of God. I know I walk in the area of deliverance. But sometimes, like the prophecy that she was given by the other apostle, he told her, it's just you're going to be you're going to be in some situations and God's not going to allow anybody to help you. I felt so helpless so many days as her leader, and I would do everything I could. And many people don't know how we are really bonded behind the scenes because of what she had to deal with since she's been in the ministry. There are so many days when I had to go meet with her because I couldn't even sleep at night, and I would just cry out to God and say, God, can you just move her? I need for you to do this thing. But when God is in control of your life and he won't even move on behalf of your leader's prayer because it's something that he's trying to do in this person's life. It's something he's trying to show them in their lives. And sometimes as leaders, we just want to go and fix it and make it right and make it better and bandage it up and remove the pain and remove the struggle and remove all of the things that they're dealing with and lift the burden. But even sometimes with you having a leader, this is why I want people to get this. You still going to have to go through your process.
Yes.
The process, you cannot remove the process. And so I want to talk to the pastors, my colleagues in the gospel, and some people, you know, you just want to fix it for them. But some people, we're not even going to be able to really get in the middle of what God is doing with them because God has them in the middle of a process. And this is where he had her. She was in the middle of the process. And sometimes I would go in my own pocket, and sometimes God would lead me to take up an offering, or sometimes God would just lead me to pray and call with her and talk to her. It was so many things, and it was days when I was sitting there trying to figure out, okay, God, what can I do? Can I just go and maybe buy a house and maybe just try to put her in the house? I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to get her out of this place of hurt. And she's a faithful member. I'm trying to help somebody. This woman of God has been a faithful member. She's not one for missing church and staying out of church 3 months and then coming back up. She has consistently for 8 years been faithful to Efficacious. So as a leader, you're saying to yourself, my God, what in the world is going on? Did I miss it? Am I missing something?
Right.
And so you have so many thoughts going on in your mind. And at the end of the day, what the Lord is really saying is, I have them in a process.
Right.
And as the man of God told you, I'm not going to allow nobody to help them right now. And so as leaders, we just got to sit there and watch them go through the process and try to help them as much as we can and try to be the support system that they need for us to be. But we got to stand back sometimes like we do with our biological children. Sometimes even with your biological children, you just got to stand back and let God be God in their lives. So now we've talked about the mental warfare and all of that. We talked about you being homeless 3 times. We talked about all of this in the midst of you being faithful to God. Yeah. Somebody needs to hear this because somebody's sitting there like dealing with depression. I know what I'm picking up in the realm of the spirit. So many people are dealing with what you're talking about right now. They have been faithful to God and they're saying, God, why is this happening to me? Yes. Why is this happening to me? They need to understand that God has them in a process. Now let's speed this thing up. What happened? You said a year ago, I know this to be true. A year ago, as your pastor, I know that you were living out of a hotel, but you were still coming to church, still dressed. People didn't know, and you were working. Yes. And you were working full time, but you still did not have your own housing situation. Yeah. So tell me what happened from that point and how you got to where you are now. Now, this is where we're getting ready to see what happens when you stay in the process and allow God to complete the work.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember this, and I just thought of this. I don't know if you had given me a promise You said, LaShawn, I hear some talking. I see in the realm of the spirit, and I hear some conversations on your job. And you said that they're going to try to get rid of you. You said, but to remain faithful. And as I was sitting here listening to you, I just thought about that, and that did happen. I was working at a credit union in Troy. And they did. My company came to me and they said, LaShawn, we're going to have to let you go. In the middle of me already in the situation that I was in, homeless. And I was like, oh my God, what I'm going to do. And, but, you know, I took it for what it was. And I actually were contacted by them later on in this new position that I was offered, requesting me to come back. But so moving fast forward, so November, like I said, last year, this time, Thanksgiving, I was homeless. Christmas, I was homeless. We move into 2020. You had given us some prophecies for the new year. You had told us, as you mentioned earlier, about the famine. You've been saying this for years for us to prepare. You always have taught us to save. You always told us, don't spend everything that you have. Save something, because save something for a rainy day. And I've never been one that, well, I did have an issue with shopping, but I've never been one to really misuse my money. But I will say that since my time there at Efficacious, I've watched you, I've been taught how to save, you know, a little bit more than but because of the situation I was in, it was hard to save. It was hard to save when you're homeless and you're trying to, you know, pay money for a hotel or trying to get food or whatever, trying to get gas. Whatever the situation was. And so moving into the new year, like I said, you've given us on New Year's Eve, I believe it was,
yes,
the prophecy that you normally do every year of what God is saying to the church. And you had told us to that, you know, about the family. You had given us some stuff about the government, that God was going to allow the government to bless us, which he did do that. But moving into this year, so I think it was like January, February, I was out of a job. And February, I was at the hotel at this time. And I received a call. And as you all know, I mean, most of us have when, you know, you're professionally, you have your information on LinkedIn or on these websites for jobs. And so I was contacted by a recruiter and offering me a position. And I was like, I'm at the point where now I was at the point I was going to accept anything, because I needed a job at this point, and I needed to try to get out of the situation that I was in. And so I talked to the gentleman and what have you. And, you know, he was like, well, think about it. And then at that time, I was contacted by my previous employer asking me to come back. And so I think I reached out to my pastor at this time, or she called me that day and we were talking about it. And or maybe I think I'm a little ahead of it, but I talked to her afterwards. But anyway, so I had to make a decision as far as if I was going to go back to my other company. But I said to myself when I left there, I was like, you know what, they didn't appreciate me when I was there, and they had the fact to let me go. I said I wouldn't feel right going back to a company that let me go. So I end up accepting the position with the company that I'm with now. And when they offered me the position and they gave me the offer letter, it was I think it was a little less than what I was making at my previous job, but I was willing to accept it because I needed it. And so I was so excited. And then I think it was like a couple of days later, I got an email, and it was a revision of the actual contract that they were offering me. And I'm like, don't make sense. I'm reading this, and at the time I had to send a copy. I think I sent a copy to my pastor, and I sent a copy to my friend. I said, am I reading this correctly? And at this, they were offering me a bonus, a sign-on bonus, and they were offering me way more. I'm not going to disclose the amount of what it is, but they were offering me more than what they offered me. And I was like, this don't make sense. This don't make sense. So of course I took the job, and I took that job in March. And the day that I got my job the second day. Now, mind you, I'm telling you guys, I was homeless. So I had been looking for a place. Pastor had given me a prophecy too, and I don't know if she remembered this. She said, I see you somewhere in West Bloom. She said, I see you getting a place in West Bloomfield. No, she said Novi. She said Novi. And I was like, okay. I'm like, because sometimes when you hear a prophecy, what I'm learning is that it may not be something that you may have looked at or something that's on the radar, but sometimes a prophecy, we know it could be current, it could be present, or it could be future. So I was like, okay, well, maybe she sees something that I ain't, seen and nobody yet. So I'm like, okay. So she didn't know that I was looking for a place, and I had been looking for a place. I looked for a place to where I currently am living now, which is close by Novi. And so I took the job, went to work or what have you. And you know that at the time that I took this job, we were right in the cusp of the pandemic. So I think I actually went to my office in probably 3 or 4 days. And then we were told that we had to relocate home. So mind you, I was at a new company, still going through training and all of that. And then had to relocate home. But not only that, I was like, God, I don't have a home. How am I going to work from home and I don't have a home? Like, I didn't want to tell my company that I did have a place to stay. I'm like, okay, I can't go to the library and set up my computer at the library. What am I going to do?
Right.
That shortly thereafter, God blessed me with a condo. I am now living in a condo again. God blessed me with a place to live. Not only that, He placed me with a condo. It seemed like everything just began to just fall in place. It was like one thing after another, one thing after another. So it was the job, it was the increase, it was and it's not about the material because, and I'm saying this because sometimes I've had to check people and say, they think that you're bragging on the material thing. I'm not bragging on the material thing, but I'm bragging on God, because just so that that if you lose something and if you're able to God will restore. He will actually give you more than what you had.
That's
I actually got more than I lost 3 times. But
right.
God has given me that triple this year.
Yes.
He's given me that triple.
Yes.
So yeah, I lost a lot.
Come on.
God has blessed me in this year.
Yes.
I am sitting in a place where I'm grateful. I'm humble. I cry daily. People don't know this because they don't see it. I cry daily. And I cry daily because every time I think about where I was last year, I wasn't able to prepare Thanksgiving dinner for my family. I wasn't able to prepare Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I'm gonna share this because, and I'm being led to. I didn't even have the money to buy my kids a gift, but I did what I could. And my son, my youngest son, well, my only son, he actually offended me because he was offended by the gift that he was given. And I said, son, this is all I have.
Right.
So no, and I'm mentioning that because know that even in your walk, your children, sometimes they may not believe you. They may not believe in you. They may not believe that, your own children. They may not believe that God is using you, that God is calling you, that God's hands is on you, because sometimes they too can be under a curse or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And my son was really offensive to me last year because he was ungrateful because of what I wasn't able to give him. And so this year I am able to do that, which I'm not going to do that for him because I'm not going to do that. But God has blessed me in a place to where I am just so humbly grateful. I can't begin to tell you 2 months ago. So He blessed me with the job. He blessed me with the new place. And then maybe 4 months after that, He blessed me with a brand new car, a car that I didn't even ask for. Yes. I own my own car. Let me reiterate it again. I own my car. I didn't have a car note. I didn't have to. It was mine. It was mine. Another blessing that God blessed me, allowed me to pay cash for. It was my car. I wasn't looking for a new car. I was okay with what I had. But my pastor had spoke she had spoke a word over my life. Prophet Adele had spoke a word in the pulpit, not necessarily over my life. He didn't know that he was speaking to me, but that word was for me. And I felt the unction in my spirit to go to the dealership. So sometimes I'll pause and say, sometimes when you get a word from a prophet, a true prophet, shall I say, because as Pastor always say, anybody can prophesy a car, a new home, um, and money in your bank account.
Right.
But it's a true prophet that will tell you about your life and rebuke you and correct you and
Yes.
truly be led by God. And I felt the urgency in my spirit when that word came across the pulpit to go to the dealership. And I went to the dealership and walked away with a brand new truck. So I am grateful for that. And then shortly thereafter, maybe about 2 months after that, I was in a meeting and I was contacted by my management department of my company. And they were like, we're having a meeting. And they said that we want to bless you with the raise, just because raise. This raise.
Yeah.
Look, Pastor, I looked at my pay stub last night and I was like, wow.
Yes.
Like, wow, I was just shocked to be able to see I have made more money in this year
Exactly.
I have ever made. And
Right.
no disrespect to anyone that has lost a loved one this year. No disrespect to anyone that is watching this that has lost a job
Absolutely.
or in a situation that they didn't ask to be in. I'm
Yes.
very empathetic to that.
Of course.
But I'm sorry, that's not my testimony.
Right.
My testimony is that God has blessed me in abundance this year. He has blessed me with overflow. And Pastor told us that she said that in this year, she said that she actually said this year, 2020, 2021, if I'm not mistaken, I think you said something about 2022, but you said that God was going to bless us. And he has blessed us, not just me, but our church as a whole. There's many other testimonies outside of myself that have not my story, but has the story of that they have not suffered lack in this season. So as I said, where many have stories of loss, that's not my story. And like I said, I said in all due respect, not bragging, but I'm bragging on God because God has He has done
it
far more than I could even ask for. Like I said, every time I sit and I think about where I was last year and where I am this year, I'm in my own home. You know, I pray. I can't. I'm so excited to cook Thanksgiving dinner. I'm so excited to cook Christmas. But like I said, for the last 6 years since I've been back here, I haven't been able to do that. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I want to go back to how the Lord blessed you with this new car. Even while you were talking, daughter, I heard the Lord say, he said, I had to. He said, she didn't ask me for the car. He said, but because the car that you owned, you were homeless 3 times and you were sleeping in the car that you own. He said, but I had to bless her with a new car to represent her new season. You can't continue to just be comfortable in something that reflects your past. Come on. Now, the fact that you got this car, and I wish the people could really physically look at this car, because even the colors and the inside, the interior of this car, it is so, I can't even describe it. It's like it was custom made for her. And it was like God custom made this vehicle and allowed them to custom make this for you to represent the new season, because the old vehicle that you still own, that's like the car that you own and you didn't have any more payments, but that was the car you were sleeping in. It represented your past. It represented your struggle. It represented the place of lack that you so often face in the past season. But when you get to the point now, before we get off of this line, because I normally don't stay on here this long, but this testimony has got to be shared. It has got to be shared. So we're going to take our time and we're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. But the Lord just told me while you were talking, he said, tell her to share with the people how she was still sowing in the ministry, because your seeds, even during a time of famine, the Bible says that the same year that Isaac sowed in the year of the famine is the same time that he reaped a harvest 100-fold, right in the midst of a famine. and not just a famine geographically or a national famine, your own personal famine. Can we talk about that? The Lord just reminded me. He said, tell her to talk about how she was still sowing, and I'm a witness, because it was many days when she would come up to me, and I knew she didn't have a job. I knew that she was living in the hotel, and I could not even not receive it, because the Lord said it was necessary for her to release these seeds so that her harvest could come. So can you talk about that personally, so that the people of God can hear that portion of your testimony?
Absolutely. She is absolutely right. It was about, I think it was about 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, the Lord, I've always paid my tithes and my offering, but God instructed me to sow directly into my leader. And so I no longer had to say tithes, because he didn't say tithe. He said sow directly into your leader. So every time I sent a seed, I would say tithe, but it was for me. It was a way I felt like God was holding me accountable in a way. I've always sowed a seed since I've been there, but I think it was around Pastor's always challenged us. She's a challenger, she's a pusher, and she's always said to sow where you want to go.
Yeah.
So if you expecting to stay at a level that's mediocre, and you're just gonna sow $10,
Right.
that's what you're. But if you looking for God to take you to a place of elevation where He's gonna bless you in abundance, you gotta sow like that.
Yeah.
So I have sowed. I continue to sow. It was days that she's right that I did not have it, but I never felt angry about sewing. I never felt like I didn't want to sew. I was always intrigued to sew. Actually, I was always encouraged, because I knew that God was going to bless me. I never ever thought in my mind, like I've heard people say, they blame God, or I've heard people say I've sold too much. I'm like, how can you not give too much? How can you say that? Because nothing that I have, or nothing that I had, is mine anyway. I
Right.
have what I have because of God. And many people in the church that I grew up, and many older people today, still have an issue with tithing. They still feel like you're sowing into the pastor. Well, guess what? My philosophy has always been that I'm going to give regardless. It's not on me what the man or woman does with the money. That's between them and God. But
Right.
I'm going to give. And so I continue to give, and my sowing into my leader, into the ministry, it has kept me from hurt, harm, and danger. It has protected my children. It has me where I am today. I sow because, one, the word says it, but I know that you have to sow. You
Yes.
have to sow, because the Bible is clear that God said, I will rebuke the devourer. He will keep some stuff back from you
Yes.
just by
Yes.
sowing. People say, well, if I live right, if I do this or I do, no. You have to sow. You have to.
Right.
Or they think, if I bless, the world say, if I do something out here, but no, you have to sow. You have to sow.
Right.
I continue to sow. I looked at, Pastor, I never really looked back at my tithing, but I was able, with this technology now, I look and I say, God,
Yes.
what?
Absolutely.
Oh my God. I tripled. The Bible talked about the 10, but
Yeah.
I've tripled that.
You
And
have
I'm
tripled
going
that
to continue
already.
to do that.
Yes.
As God blesses me, I cannot, for our leader, and I think I can say this for our church as a whole, and I'm not saying this to gloat, because I think she knows that I know, but I want to get to a point where I'm sowing. I do right now, I do beyond my 10%. I do beyond. I want to get to a point where I'm sowing weekly $1,000, or if that or more. And you just have to get to that point, and you have to speak it. And that's my desire. But I continue to sow, and my sowing is I believe, with my faith, is where I am today, because I sowed even at times when I didn't have it, even at times when I was challenged to give. I gave it with no complaints, with trusting God, put a prayer on it and left it alone and walked away. Didn't think twice about it and just trusted God.
Right.
And I'm a witness today of what God can do when you remain faithful
Yeah.
and continue to pay your tithes.
Yeah, I remember it was during the time when you were still, and we're getting ready to wrap this up because I know many people, we have already been on an hour. I don't think my broadcast has ever gone over an hour, but we never apologize about the time when it's in, when God is in control, when we're being led by the Spirit. The Lord said to me, even while you were talking, and he reminded me, it was $100 seed. I don't know if you remember, but one Sunday last year, you came up and you were still living in the hotel, and you came up to me. I was sitting over there in my chair, and Prophet Wyndham was up, and he was challenging the people to sow into the pastor. And so you came over and you put the $100 seed in my hand, and you fell to your knees, and you said, "Pastor, this is all I have." You said, "This is all I have." You said, "But the Spirit of the Lord told me to come over here and put this in your hand." And so as a leader, in the back of my mind, naturally, I'm thinking, I want to tell her to keep this because I know her situation. But see, let me tell you something about people. Folk who have never really been taught in terms of kingdom principles, in terms of sowing, the principles of sowing and reaping. Folk who have the most criticism to say about sowing, folk who have the most criticism to say about tithing, people who criticize any type of giving in the church, look at their situation and do an evaluation of where they are. And people sometimes are working in the ministry. See, I have a problem with that. I don't allow people to flow in leadership at my church if you got the spirit of poverty and your mindset has not yet been transformed to adapt to kingdom principles. So because we don't need the spirit of struggle in our church, we don't need the spirit of struggle transferring, because folk, before they came to Efficacious, they've already struggled. Right. And my job and my mandate and part of my assignment is to help birth out people from the place from where they were to the place where God is birthing them. So we don't allow people that got that struggling mindset, that poverty mindset, to be up over God's people, because that's not where we are in the ministry. And so I need for people to adapt to the culture of the kingdom. This is not just an efficacious thing. This is not just an efficacious principle. This is a kingdom principle. The kingdom has its own economy. So sowing and reaping is kingdom. That's not just efficacious ministries. That's kingdom. And so when she put the $100 seed in my hand, naturally in my mind, I'm saying, I want to tell her to keep this because I know that she has this hotel bill that she's trying to pay. But spiritually, as her spiritual leader, I had to receive it, because as she was sowing the seed into the ground, I knew that her harvest was connected to that $100 seed. And I began to lay my hands on her and release and come into agreement with her harvest and the things that God was getting ready to do. Now, sometimes when God is transitioning you in terms of and giving you a paradigm shift, even concerning money and finances and how we operate in the kingdom, a lot of times you can't be so open to share with people who don't get it, because they'll be looking at you like you're crazy. Yeah. Why in the world would you go over there and put $100 in this woman's hand and you don't even have your own house?
Yes.
And you barely in the hotel. You about to be living in your car again. So what that doesn't even seem logical that you will go over there and put $100. But see, nothing in the kingdom is logical. It's supernatural. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Somebody type that. This is not logical. This is supernatural. Right. So the supernatural things of God defies logic. In other words, when we walk in supernatural realms, it defies the thing that normally makes sense in our mind. So because, and I remember like we sitting here talking today, LaShawn, I remember when you came and put that $100 seed in my hand,
Wow.
and you fell to your knees and you broke down and started crying, and you whispered in my ear, you said, Pastor, this is all I have.
Wow.
And I began to cry with you, and I began to lay hands and come into agreement. That was one of the moments that it broke. That was one of the moments where you heard the voice of God and you obeyed God, and you came over there and put that seed in my hand. And that was the beginning of when that thing started turning around for you. And so the new car. So we're talking about all this has happened. So you got a new job. Then they gave you a raise. Then they gave you a bonus. Oh my God. I wish y'all could understand and hear the magnitude of this bonus. This bonus is so huge that even when she testified in church, we couldn't even just talk about it online. She couldn't even tell the church, because a lot of times people sometimes can't handle the magnitude.
Yes.
Come on, somebody. Somebody say, it's just some things in this season you're going to have to keep to yourself. Come on, I need y'all to type that. It's just some things in this season you're going to have to keep to yourself. You ain't going to be able to tell.
You ain't going to be able to
testimony, because this thing God is doing for us in this season right now, this pandemic, this new time, this new climate that we're in, and we're in the world, but we're not of the world. Y'all got to get this. We are in the world, but we are not of the world. Yeah, we got to follow the laws of the land and all of that. But in the kingdom, we have our own economy. God has his own system. Come on, LaShawn. You great stirred me up.
Yes, that is so true. You are so right, because the enemy, after I didn't share this with you, but after you had me testify at church, the enemy tried to fight me on that. And because it is, sometimes people can't handle, I've learned that people are okay when you're in a place of lack and you're lower than where they are. They're okay with that. But you spoke yesterday, and you said you're going to lose some friends. I've lost some friends. I've lost some people, but it's okay. It's okay. Because sometimes, people are, like I said, when God starts elevating you above where they are, they can't.
Yes. Right. And so I keep hearing this in the spirit. The magnitude of your blessing cannot even be compared to all the things that you lost. This thing, when God blesses you, we sitting here talking about, we testify, I was homeless 3 times. But honey, you ain't thinking about none of that right now. This thing has got so good, and the Lord has just blessed you so abundantly that it will cause you to be grateful. See, that time of loss, that time of setback, that time of not having what you really wanted to have and being able to do what you wanted to do, God was simply preparing you for how to handle this season that you're in now. You're not going to go out and waste it because you know what it feels like not to have it. Come on, somebody. You're not just going to go out here because you got a $5,000 or $10,000 sitting in your bank account, and you're just going out here, going down to the mall and buying up Gucci this and Louis Vuitton this and this, that, and the other. And listen, somebody, that process, I had to allow you to go through the process. God even had me to just be there to help cushion, to help push you through, to be there, to be your support. But baby, you passed the test. You came out winning in this season. You came out winning, and your pandemic didn't just start this year. Your pandemic was last year. Come on, somebody. You had a crisis going on in your life for the past 8 years. You had your own personal pandemic going on for the last 8 years. But you remain faithful. And then the word that God gave me yesterday for the graduates and for the church was keep pushing. You kept pushing to church. And I would look at you sometimes, and I knew as your leader, you was barely making it. I could tell when you had just got through crying. I said, she just got finished crying in the car and her mind. And I'm telling those of you that are watching, those of you who have stayed on this live, I'm telling you that this testimony is real. She's not making this stuff up. I have walked her through this process. I have walked with her through this process, and nobody's more excited for her and happy for her than I am right now. Let me tell you something. Her bonus alone, people talking about she shouldn't have gave the $100 seed. Do you know what her bonus was? Oh my God. I wish we could talk about it, LaShawn. If these people knew what your bonus was, that $100 seeds will multiply so many times over. Listen, that's the kind of money I'm getting ready to get. Let me sow another $100 seed.
Yes.
If it's gonna multiply that many times, my God.
See, I'm about to sow a seed right now that you said that.
Let me tell you something. These people on this line this morning, those of you who have stayed, and I'm so grateful. We have been on here almost an hour and a half. I am so grateful that you all stayed tuned to this live. Listen, Sister Robinson, I see you, baby. I see you. I got your text. I'll be in touch with you today. This live is going to transform. It's going to bring deliverance. It's going to break some things off of some people. The things that you shared, LaShawn, I want to thank you, daughter, for being so transparent. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you for coming on this Monday morning. And I asked the Lord this morning, I said, God, you sure you told me to do this on Mondays? I'd be so tired on Mondays. But let me tell you something. After preaching and ministering on Sundays, you know, Mondays used to be the preacher's off day. Right. So I told God this morning, I said, you sure you told me to do this? Who came up with this concept? But let me tell you something. As we walk in obedience to the Lord, God is going to continue to bless you and increase your life. And I don't know, LaShawn, what you planning on doing for your mother. But I see the Lord is telling me to tell you to do something very special for your mother this holiday. Do something very special. And I don't know if that's confirmation. I don't know if that's confirmation, or I don't know what's going on with that. But I see you preparing something that's very, very special. See, in this season, God has, when you get to your blessed place, all the stuff that you went through before, so you got to show people, I'm not there no more.
Yes.
I'm not there no more. Yeah. You might still be there, but I'm not there anymore. Can I tell those of you that are watching this morning that this testimony has been a breakthrough for so many of you? The Lord told me to tell the church yesterday, we are in now a season of abundance. And I know they're talking about shutting down and doing this and doing that, but kingdom people have to hear what the Lord is saying. He said we are in the season of abundance, and it's just some things, just like LaShawn had to go through this. Many people did not know, from her past church, her current church. These people that thought they knew her really didn't know what she was real. See, a lot of people think they know you, but they don't. They think they know you right now, but they don't. They don't know the tears you're crying. They don't know the struggles. They don't know the depression. They don't know how you trying to get up and just survive living day by day. They don't even know how you barely getting out the bed sometimes when you wake up in the morning. But I'm here to let you know that if you heard anything that this woman of God had to say, hear me when I tell you, you have got to keep pushing, and you have got to keep pressing, and you have got to stay in the process. Hear me, people of God. Stay in the process where God has you, and stop aborting your assignment. Stop aborting your destiny. Stop aborting your purpose. If you learn to just stay there and embrace everything, I watched this woman of God stay right there and embrace it. She took it. She processed it. She cried her way through it. She came to church and she was quiet, and people was talking about her, and they didn't understand her, and they misunderstood her, and they took her quietness as acting funny, and they said she was funny acting, and they didn't understand. This woman of God was living out of her car. Come on, somebody. Church folk got to stop being so judgmental. Church folk got to stop judging people just based on their facial expression, because this woman of God almost had a mental breakdown in my presence. Y'all not saying nothing, but because she stayed in the process, of humility. And she would sometimes, I would have to text her, and I would have to call her in the middle of the day. So when you have a pastor, when you have a leader that genuinely cares for you, you ain't got to tell them what you're dealing with. Pastor, I'm going through this. Pastor, I'm going through that. Pastor, I'm going through that. You ain't got to do all that. When you have a prophet, when you have a leader that hears from God, God will let them catch you in in the spirit. Come on, somebody. And it was many days when I had to catch this woman of God, but all the joy now. She has so many tears. She has so many tears, but today she is crying. These are not tears of sadness. These are tears that I made it. These are tears that I survived. These are tears that I finally got my breakthrough. Are y'all witnessing this right now? So those of you that are on this line, come on, I feel the Spirit of God. This woman's testimony, many of you are getting ready to testify. And God is telling me to remind you, this thing is about to be so big that you're not even going to be able to tell the whole testimony. You're just going to be able to share a part of the testimony. You know why? Because many people that are in your circle, they are watching and they're waiting for you to die in the middle of what you're in. They're waiting for your downfall. They're waiting for the news that you didn't make it, but they don't know that you're in a process and God is not going to allow you to die in the process. And every seed that she sowed was preparing her. Come on, somebody. We are in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. Those seeds that she sowed last year, those $20, those $2, those $5, whatever she could sow, she kept seed in the ground. And those seeds have turned now into a harvest for her right here and right now in the middle of a pandemic. Do y'all see what God has done? All the faithfulness of God. All the faithfulness of God. Even when it seems like he has abandoned us, even when it seems like he ain't with us, even when we are praying, my God, from Zion, even when we're praying and God's not speaking and responding and he's silent, she stayed in the process. She stayed right there. Are y'all hearing this morning? And so I want those of you who have stayed on this line, those of you who have stayed on this live, those of you who have not shared, share this live, share this live. This testimony is about to bless. It's about to bless thousands of people. I see this thing being viewed even a year from now. I see this testimony being witnessed and heard 6 months from now, 8 months from now. This testimony, we couldn't make this up. We didn't conjure this up. This woman of God has walked through the fire, and now she's on the other side of the threshold. She got so much now. I wish y'all knew what God was really doing. She's driving a brand new car that she didn't even ask for. But God said, because the car that you have, you were sleeping in that car. You were crying and depressed in that car. I can't let you stay in an atmosphere of where you were depressed. I got to put you in something that reflects this new season that I have you in. I got to put you in something. I got to bless you with something that you didn't even ask for because of my faithfulness and my obligation to you, because you stayed faithful through your process. God said, you're in a new season. You're in a new place. And I hear the Lord say, even now, LaShawn, just let some things go. Let some old people, however they treated you, whatever they did, just let it go. Because you know what? You're not even there anymore. I hear the Lord say, the devil meant it for evil, but God has turned it for your good. Oh my God. I pray that you all have been blessed. I pray that you have been ministered to. And LaShawn, before I get ready to close this thing out, those of you that want to sow a seed, and she says she just released a seed. Those of you that want to put a seed in the ground right now, I challenge you to put a seed of $29 in the ground. I challenge you to sow a seed today. And those of you that sowed on Thursday, every single seed that comes in, as it comes in, when I get off the light, even those, I kept getting seeds all day, all night. Whenever the seed comes in, I pray personally over every seed that comes in. Why? Because I'm coming into agreement. Those of you that sow this $29 seed, just put in the notation what you're believing God for. Just like when she put that $100 in my hand and I began to grab her hand and I held onto her hand, I came and I prayed and I came into agreement for her breakthrough. I said, God, let this be the seed that breaks this thing that she's been in. I said, God, Because see, you can't even pay for a miracle. You can't, there's not enough money that we can give God, give to sow into the kingdom on behalf of what God has done for this woman of God. And so those of you that want to sow, put in the notation box, put that notation, whatever you believe in God for, and I'm going to pray over your seed. And when you receive that heart, when I click on that heart, know that I had just prayed over you and your request. Woman of God, do you have anything else that you want to say?
You know what? I just want to end by saying that remain faithful to God, and he will remain faithful to you. As our apostle have said, keep pushing, no matter what you are faced with, no matter the challenges, no matter people talking, no matter family walking away, no matter children walking away, no matter if you got to go through it by yourself. God will never leave you alone. And as she mentioned, he will get quiet, but that doesn't mean that he's not moving on your behalf. Trust God and trust the process.
Amen. He will get quiet.
Yes,
but it does not mean that he's not moving on your behalf right now. Did y'all hear that? Yes. He may get silent, yes, but it doesn't mean that he's not moving and working some things out on your behalf. Many of you are praying, but you're not really getting the clear direction and the clear answer. And many of you are frustrated. But did you hear what she said? It may get quiet, but it does not mean that God is not moving. I challenge those of you. I have 4 spots remaining for my mastermind class this Wednesday. I have a mastermind class on this Wednesday, the 18th at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. I got 4 spots left. I want to mentor. I want to mentor you, and I want to walk you through how to win in this pandemic. Let me tell you something. There's one thing that I know that people can't take from me. I know God's voice.
Yes, she does.
And I know how to speak a word when I hear God speak concerning his people. Yes. Now, that's one thing that people can't take from me. I'm telling you right now. I hear from God. Come on, somebody. And I'm not bragging, but I live a life. I live a life before God. I live a life before God, so that when you are pure before the things of God, not perfect, but you live to seek to be pure before God. Come on, somebody. Amen. Somebody out here got to be in a posture where when God is speaking, we can hear him clearly. Amen. I would suggest that you all go to my website, TeresaCoxMinistries.com. And I want you to click on how to win in this pandemic, the mastermind class. Click on the mastermind link and sign up. I got 4 spots left. Are y'all hearing me? I got 4 spots left. I cannot mentor the whole world, but I tell you what, I'm excited because these people that are signing up for this, some of them, where they are now, I'm going to give them 90 days. And wherever they are now, they will not be in the same place 90 days from now. I promise you that. I promise you that. I got 4 spots left. Go to TeresaCoxMinistries.com and click on that link, the mastermind class. And I want you to register for this mastermind class. I will give you all until tomorrow night to register and get your name in that spot, lock in your spot so that I can mentor you and so that I can teach you the things of God and even release prophetically one-on-one. I'm going to prophesy right on that Zoom. That's why I don't want a whole lot of people on there. I'm going to walk you through the steps that you need to take during this pandemic, how to win in this pandemic. I'm telling you, we're winning over here. Yeah. We're not losing. And I'm so excited. LaShawn, thank you so much for coming on and being so transparent. And I bless your daughter because your transparency is getting ready to be a blessing to so many people. And I so wish that we could tell those numbers because they would just oh my God, their minds would just be blown. But just know that God has upheld his end of the deal concerning her. You heard her say she was homeless. You heard her say she went through some things, but you also need to know that this blessing that's on her right now, it cannot be measured. It is a blessing that goes beyond measure. So thank you so much. Those of you who have stayed on here, those of you who have shared, if you have not shared this live, continue to share it throughout this day so that this word can continue to go out and so that it can continue to be a blessing to so many people. We're here to be a blessing. Amen. We are here to be a blessing. So thank you, LaShawn. God bless you all. I will be back on here Thursday at 10:59 a.m. right here on Insight. God bless you. We love you.